Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Game Dev London podcast. I am your host, Roxanne Marshall. You can refer to me as she, her. Today, I'm joined by Gamers Inc. to talk all about growing an in real life gaming community. Gamers Inc. are an almost 5,000 strong community. They're a non-profit organisation who have monthly events focusing on bringing together the queer community to play games, make long-lasting relationships, and have a safe space to do what we love best, game. I'm joined by three of the organisers at Gamers Inc. today, and I'll hand over to you, Adam, to introduce yourself, let us know what you do at Gamers Inc., and also what we can refer to you as.
Yeah, I'm Adam. I'm one of the moderators for Gamers Inc. My main thing is that I help write and host the quiz that we do once a month. My pronouns are he, they.
Hi, I'm Will. I'm also one of the moderators for Gamers Inc. My pronouns are he, they as well. I typically sort of coordinate the setup for our main monthly meetup, like setting up the equipment and running the front desk. And I usually host the cinema trips. And I don't work in the games industry, but I work in the software dev industry.
Hello, I am Yusuf. I go by he, him. I am founder of Gamers Inc. Started back in 2015. I help try to keep the group going as much as possible with the amazing team of moderators and admins behind me and next to me.
Thank you so much. So we were just briefly talking before we started recording today about how I kind of met Gamers Inc. So it was actually in a Pride parade, my first Pride parade, and you were kind of in front of me, and I think there were like maybe not even 10 of you that year. And the next year I walked with you, and there were like 100 and more in the actual group. That grew very quickly. What was kind of behind that super quick growth?
I think really from behind it was quite amazing to see how quickly we grew. I think at the time when we first started as LDN gamers, we didn't really have much to sort of go off. The only thing that we sort of went off was the fact that we were a bunch of close friends who just knew that we liked gaming, and through word of mouth we just carried on trying to find each other. We had an amazing group of people who knew part of the Pride in London parade team, and they were able to get us in. We've always wanted to march in the parade itself, but to go from that to the following year and the increase that we had was just phenomenal. And that's all due to the fact that gaming back in 2016, 2015, it wasn't big. No one really understood gaming as we do now. And I think with gaming, it really has helped build the community that we have together. Because a lot of people back in those days, they didn't really understand what gaming was, what gaming really stood for, and the power that it really can have in bringing people together. And I think we were able to very happily achieve that for the following year and to this day.
Yeah,
Well,
I think it. Oh, sorry, go.
No, go ahead.
I was gonna say, yeah, I think you met Gamers before I did, Roxanne. So I think when I joined, I think I was exactly, if I remember this really clearly, I was the 500th member to join the Facebook group. I literally, as I joined, it went from 499 to 500, and we're now on something like 4 to 6K or something.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think I'd just said, I think at the time it was still quite a niche thing. Like gaming was big, like, but it wasn't as big as it is now. And I think to find a group, not only was it sort of a bit of a niche thing to be a gamer, but also to be LGBTQ and a gamer. I think those two together, just once that group was created, I think it was kind of destined for people to latch onto it, to be like, oh my God, this is my crew, this is my tribe. And I think that's why it just needed more people to sort of find it. And then it's obviously, gone on with the growth of gaming as a popular a thing that's now just it's very rare to meet someone who isn't a gamer these days. But I think because we have that extra niche of also having the journey of being in however you define yourself in the LGBTQ spectrum, that helps you. I think that means that our community still has its real value as a group to attend, to sort of find your like.
Yeah, to sort of add on to what Adam was saying, I not just gaming, but geek culture in general has been on like a massive upswing in recent years. Like think back to like a decade ago where being into things that were geeky was generally sort of frowned upon a bit by some people, and yet now like every month or so there's a Marvel movie or a Star Wars thing. And that's sort of played into the growth of gamers as well. We do sort of have like a gaming and geek sort of thing going on. And yeah, I think that angle has really attracted people as well.
We're
Yeah.
incredibly lucky to have started Gamers where we did and when we did. I feel like communities nowadays do tend to find it a bit more harder to be able to find and build those communities up themselves. I feel like we're very, very lucky to have had that growth from such a early stage and to be where we are now. And yeah, it again, to echo what both Adam and Will have said, it's definitely something that wasn't around. It was very niche back in the day, but the fact that we have been able to provide a space for LGBTQ plus people to feel safe, especially with what's been happening ongoing in online bullying and in gaming, it's incredibly important that we provide a safe space for people.
Yeah, I remember the Tozy event after, I can't remember which Pride it was, but we were literally like spilling into the street, and then afterwards you had to kind of add ticketing. How did you deal with those big leaps? I think it was always around Pride. We always obviously gained a lot of attention in the parade and stuff, and I think every time after the numbers would jump a lot. How did you kind of deal with that behind the scenes?
It was very difficult because the one thing that I didn't want to focus on is monetizing the group. And to this day, we don't monetize the group. Every single bit of money that we do make from getting tickets, selling tickets to our meetups goes directly back to the group. This is to replace TVs, to replace consoles, to buy new games, to hire out venues for our members and more people to meet each other. For a long time, I didn't want to focus on making and taking and focusing on the group as a monetization type of group. Because
as a product, right?
As a product,
Yeah.
exactly, because we as a non-profit community group, everything that we do goes back to the group. All money that from ticket sales and everything goes back to the group to replace TVs, to buy consoles, to buy controllers, more games, hire out venues, working with other LGBTQ plus organizations and artists. We try to work with as many people as possible to make sure that more people can find each other. But it was difficult to transition into that because we did have so many people joining, like you said, after Pride parades. Like the amount of people would be joining our group grew exponentially, and it was amazing to see. But in a community in a place like London and how small it is very difficult to sometimes navigate how to manage it properly. And I feel like what we have been doing has been good so far. We've been able to find a good balance. I'm not sure if you both, Adam or Will, feel differently, but I feel
no, not at all. I think it's
I absolutely agree.
I think it's interesting that one of the things that always comes up is that, yeah, like you said, we got the surge when we started ticketing for our monthly meetup and such, because it was just getting so busy that people weren't able to even like move. But the thing that you would come up, a lot of things that would come up with that is that people are like, oh, why don't you go for a bigger venue? So our current venue is a maximum like 250, I think. And they were like, people were always like, oh, why don't you go for bigger venues? Obviously, the tickets sell out so quickly. And I think we thought about it, but then I think what's really interesting about that is that if we were to go bigger, we were to get that sort of lot and keep growing, as Yusuf said, like a product, sort of like, oh, there's more people, some more space, it starts to lose its charm and that connection it starts to become this
Absolutely.
huge sort of like overly large event where people aren't making those connections because it's just so hard to meet people. And when there is such a thing as too big, like, and I think
Yeah,
Yeah.
I
we have
mean,
that sort of intimate venue, you can still make those connections. Yes, it does sell out, but
yeah.
we're sort of keeping that feel. Sorry, Will.
I mean, I think that's the difficult balancing act at this stage, trying to maintain that smaller community feel while also allowing room for scale. And I mean, it absolutely can be done, but it's a challenge. But I think we've navigated that pretty well, actually.
Yeah, we're not a convention, and that's one thing that
Yeah.
I want to focus on is the fact that we are a community group. We've always been a community group, and we are here for our members. Conventions, what they tend to do is when they obviously sell their tickets and they bring everyone together, as great as they are, they lose their appeal, like Adam was saying, and they lose their appeal of being able to bring those people together. There's no connection that you can make, and especially for us, the Gamers Inc. team, we like making those connections with our members. Like when you see us at our events, we are right there with everyone, talking to them, sort of getting to know our newbies, getting to know our members. Whereas at conventions, it's very much like they at the back. They just have people come in, play those games, and then they leave. So by getting bigger venues, we lose that sense of quality that we would have with our members that we have now. So
yeah. And you mentioned like newbies. You've always made quite a big effort to make sure that people who are new to the events are welcomed, that people are aware that they are new and possibly, might need a bit of hand-holding or just a friend or someone to game with. And I think that's been really important that you've never really gate-kept the community, which has helped it grow at a really nice rate, I think.
Yeah, I think coming into it, I think it's very easy coming into any community as a new person. It can be very easy to look at it as like, oh, everyone knows one another. It's super, like people have said, people go to communities and think it looks cliquey or whatever. When it's like, in reality, like everyone there has been there at some point and has been that first person, and they've kept coming back because it's so I think it is such a friendly and welcoming space that once you get past that initial sort of fear, it's like actually people will just come up to you, see that we've got little stickers for when people are new, and it's like, oh hey, I see do you want to come meet some people, do you want to chat, like how are you finding it? Like it's just, it looks like that sometimes because people are just so friendly, so it feels like they've known each other for forever. And I think that's sort of really noticed. I mean, so many different people come each event, like because it is just sort of rolling in. It's not just the same people every single time. It is sort of this rolling sort of different groups that all know sort of each other in a different kind of way, which is sort of nice to see.
Yeah, I mean, to add on to that as well, like I've approached newbies before because sometimes when I do see somebody in particular who looks like particularly stressed and anxious, like I'll go over to them and spend a bit of time with them to make sure that they get settled in. And there's been a couple of instances now where I've done that and they've ended up becoming some of my best friends. So, I mean, it's I guess the point is we also stand to learn something from that.
Yeah, like the point of the group is sort of to connect people rather than like, oh, hey, come and game with you. It's about actually you can come here to make those connections that you might have had difficulty finding elsewhere.
Absolutely.
And that's on any level with gaming, like, or whatever geekdom you're into. Like, you could be like, we've got some of our most most attending members as people that are like maybe have like one console that they sort of play every now and then, but are like super into like fantasy world comics and stuff like that, and it's like you're also welcome. Like this is not a like, oh, you must have 3 consoles latest gen, like you must
I mean there's relapsed gamers as well, like people who used to avidly play on like 16-bit consoles like the Mega Drive or the SNES, and like have recently just picked up a Switch or something, and they're like, oh hey, I'm getting into gaming and there's this LGBTQI plus gaming group, let's see what all that's about. And it's really interesting to see how many different people from different levels of interest in gaming. It's interesting to just see how this group can bring them together.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, what do you think it is about gaming that enables that. Like, it's such a huge, like you just alluded to, Will, it's so many different people, different backgrounds, you know, neurodivergent people, people from different religions. Like, it's such a diverse group. And, you know, we've said it's kind of a niche within a niche. What makes it so comfortable to bring people together? What is it?
I think, and this is probably the simplest answer, it's just a form of escape for people, and it's an engaging form of escape. And when people can become so engaged with something, it can bring out the passion inside them. And sorry,
no, I completely agree with you, but yeah.
Yeah, it's escapism for the most part, and it can generate talking points, and talking points can bring people together. It can bring about discussion, and it can bring about community.
I think this is a question that you could literally spend the entire podcast and more talking about. I think there's an element of it that, like, I think escapism is the number one for sure, and I think it's that element of, like, no matter what, there's a game for you, but it's such a wide thing, and as you're able to find your obsession within that, like, what have you always wanted to be or do or fantasize about, that you can be in control of that, not just watch it on a screen, but actually be that person, control that person, move them around, or creature or inanimate object or whatever, you know. There's so many little things.
You get the personal stake in the medium to an extent.
And
it's sorry, go on, Adam.
I was gonna say, it's just like a world beyond our own. Like, it's that kind of thing. It's just so fantastical and able to, especially now, where no matter where you are really in the world, it is not easy. It's pretty difficult, particularly for LGBTQ and in particular trans people. I think it is that kind of, like, as Will said, escapism, to sort of live in a better place. And when you meet other people that are also escaping into that place together, that's even better.
I mean, you have to look at.
Becomes. I'm sorry, Yuri.
Sorry, it's okay. You look at the progress that we've made over the couple of years, or over the decades that technology has made in gaming, or just not in gaming, but just technology in general. Like, people are doing and focusing more on this space than anywhere else. They say that by 2030, don't quote me on the date, but I'm pretty sure by 2030, it's like, the gaming industry has more money in it than the TV, music, and film industry combined. And by 2030, they say, or more than, it'll probably be more than the sporting industry. It's crazy to think that gaming itself has massively gone to this level. It's incredible to see that it's not just the gaming itself, it's the escapism that we all love and that we've sort of been raised on, but the fact that it's not, that people can now use gaming as a medium or a place where they can train. Like, you are seeing studios which are focusing on kids developing, on kids learning and development, which has massively helped by, rather than just because people and parents, for example, they're accepting the fact that, you know, sometimes you just have to have the iPad there and ready for them. And because you are working, everyone's working from home, especially from COVID, it's very difficult to be able to maintain and keep the attention on your child, as well as carrying on your own life, because it is very difficult now. But now that a lot of studios are now focusing on how we can utilize apps and games to sort of help develop young minds. Other studios have helped and develop like controllers and games which help disabled and mentally mentally disabled people. So it's
shout out
very,
to Special
very
Effect for that.
The Special Effect, for example, yeah, exactly. They're an incredible charity which help and create controllers that let disabled people play games, and that's incredible that we are in an age where we can do that, where it's not just us who can play these games, but it's everyone now that can play these games.
Yeah, I think that enabling so many different things, whether it's that kind of communication or learning or connectivity. You know, we have friends, a lot of gamers like us have friends all around the world. I mean, there's people I game with every day who I don't even know their real name, but they're so embedded in my life. And I mean, community is super important in the game industry as well. I mean, Adam, you've made your way into that as a professional career now. How much of being part of an in real life community has enabled that? What have you brought to your career from that?
I mean, literally, the reason I got this job was because of Gaymers. I think it used to feel the same. You've got a very similar role to mine, and I think you'll be able to speak on this as well. But I basically went in with no professional experience with it, and the fact that I could hear that I had all this like in real life ability to sort of look after people and meet their needs and manage them in a way that sort of they sort of saw that and were like, oh wow, okay, you've been doing this in your spare time, like you've been doing this just as a thing. I was like, yeah, that's just what I always wanted to do. And it took actually a long time to even click that I could do it as a job. It didn't really, it took a while for me to sort of go, hey, wait a second, there's something here. But yeah, I think I was actually going to bring something on. It kind of connects the two questions. As I think the great thing you were saying about connecting with people online, you like you say, I have people I know that don't even know their real names. It's just their usernames across. I think that's the powerful thing about gaming is you making connections across the world. And then having a community that does meet in real life is that then brings it into your sort of even deeper connections with those people so you can meet. So you've like, there's not to sniff at how deep a connection can be digitally, but then to have that in real life connection and meet and be able to physically do things with those people that you've made those connections with, I think is really, really powerful and can create such powerful kinship. I mean, all my greatest friends have come from meeting people at Gaymers. And I think that's like the sort of next level of that, because it can be easy to sort of maybe hide behind a username. And I think the fact that we can bring people together to sort of push to that next level, like, cool, you've made these connections here. Now let's meet that in real life as well. Let's get you out of your what maybe you're putting yourself in like a safe zone, like sort of push yourself, give them the confidence to get out of that. I think that's sort of really, really, really powerful. And I think a lot of people will say that they've met some of the closest connections they have because of the group.
Yeah, the one piece of advice I've always given to people who are new to Gaymers is when they message our group, for example, on either Facebook or Instagram, they always say that they're really nervous about coming because they don't have a group, or they've found a group that they've been able to go to other than like Discord servers. You are a brave person. You are brave enough that you can do anything that you put your mind to. It's always difficult to be able to put that into reality, but by coming to it and taking that first step shows just how much you can accomplish. Just going to a place by yourself alone is always going to be very, very difficult, no matter what the circumstances are, regardless if it's Gaymers or going to a bar or going to a museum. Leaving the house, for example, to anyone that could be a very, very scary thing. But by being able to come to Gaymers, from what a lot of people have said, or what I've told them, is you're taking that first step, and by taking that first step you will find a connection here. You will find someone that is almost potentially the same as you, and you know that you are going to be able to make that connection and be friends. It's very, very hard to be able to stick to that, because again, in this day and age where, for example, we live in a social media world where everything is on the phones, on apps, it is very, very difficult to meet people. So having our space has been so useful for so many people to be able to find each other. Like Adam was saying, like, it's having that connection online is great, it is good, but being able to meet IRL can be so much better, because you get to actually have that connection with them. You get to be able to talk to them and see them and build something more than just what can be online. And
there's something that changes within you, isn't it, as a human? When you are with someone in person, it just something instinctual is just that connection is just generally deeper. There's something, I mean, there's probably so much psychology about that, about brainwaves or whatever. I think being that literally just being in the vicinity of someone that you've got a connection with, I think is just a whole nother level sometimes. And that adds to that digital presence, right? Like you can then go home and play games to your heart consent. But as long as there's that sort of thing, yeah.
It's also the foundation. Sorry, I'm just going to add, Will, like the foundation of everything that we talk about in Gaymers is already there. It's another thing I was going to say is the foundation of all the topics and things that you want to talk about already there. You're here for gaming. So being able to go up to someone shouldn't be a scary thing, because all you need to do is literally go up to them and say, hey, so what do you play? And that conversation will start straight away because they are also there for gaming. It's as simple as that sometimes.
Yeah.
Sorry, go on.
I think, Will, do you want to add to that?
I think Yusuf already covered it.
No, sorry,
Same thoughts.
I was just going to say about, what you said about having that thing in common, that you don't really have to strike up a conversation or think about a topic in your head, because, when you're at Tozy, for example, the amount of times I've just been sitting in a booth, having a drink, playing a game, and then someone jumps on, the other side of the booth, and you're just playing this normally ridiculous game together. You don't have to be a good gamer. Like, I'm not a good gamer. I'm a very okay gamer. It doesn't matter, as long as you're there to play games. And I think it's really important that you've made spaces that aren't just focused on kind of being very social. You have your cinema trips and even things like the Science Museum event last year, which I loved, with all the retro games and all of the different quizzes and everything you do. There's so many options. If one isn't your thing, you can probably find something in your offering that suits you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
I know quite a few people who really love the board games events, who typically aren't into the big bustling social things like Tozy,
which is the old schoolyard in Borough. It's an acronym for the old schoolyard, in case anyone's wondering what Tozy means.
We've all been saying
keep
Tozy
saying
the whole time.
But yeah, to echo it again, it is great because, like Will was saying, we have so many different, and you say, Roxanne, that we have events where they are not just focusing on the big socials. So, for example, like the quiz, we've got the cinema trips, we've got board games, we've got sometimes we do trips to conventions, we've got the what else do we have? We've got Gamers.
We're going to be bringing back Gamers Active soon.
Yeah,
as well, which are sportier events where we try to do more stuff like archery tag, trampolining, sports days, picnics even.
And we've got a Halloween party as well. Which is
themed events. Yeah.
Variety is the slice of life.
We do pride events, big pride gatherings. Sometimes we get great sponsors. We've had in the past Nintendo, which has been phenomenal, and and Halloween as well. Big parties for that. So we try to theme and do as much as we can for all genres of gamers rather than just console gamers. And I think that's what has really helped get our group to what it is today.
And you mentioned working with Nintendo there. What do you think the value is for companies like that, or game studios, or anyone to actually work with real life communities? What do you think it can kind of bring to the table for them?
Oh, I mean, gaming for us, you look at how we grew up. Gaming was a huge part of our escapism. We grew up in a society which we felt that didn't understand us. That's why it resonates so much to us as LGBTQ plus people, because we already have that connection that because we're gamers, we are already very different to people who are non-gamers. And as LGBTQ plus people, again, it's the exact same thing. And by having corporations, big gaming companies bring that to their games and to their communities, I feel like it's a huge step in the right direction, and in making sure that people who are growing up can see themselves in those games, can see themselves as those heroes in those consoles, in those games that they're portraying so much. Because when they grow up, they know that they don't have to be so shy. They can, for example, Black and POC people in gaming, again, is a huge thing that is still not being shared enough in gaming. And I feel like by having those people see themselves in those games, they can, I don't know, I'm trying to make a connection here, but I'm sure. Yeah,
I know. I think your point gets across. I think it's a really important thing. I think it's specifically like them when they work with more like communities like ours. I think that's really, really important. And I think on a more general level, it also just shows that they have the same similar values to us, right? By big corporations like that doing
it's making
in
these
real life
connections
events
with the community.
Exactly. Yeah, it shows that they know that these. I mean, especially something like Nintendo, like it's going back to such early consoles, and a lot of people our generation sort of grew up with. To sort of then have an event in real life with that company, with other people who also love this and grew up with this, and to chat with them and play the new game, that's such a special moment of like, rather than just like it arriving at your house and oh cool new one, to actually like, oh cool, there's a new console with this company that I've grew up with, and here's a person sat next to me I've not met before, who's also got an obsession but knows stuff I don't, but I know stuff that they, and I can share that with them in this moment. And it's, I think it shows that those corporations, that although their whole product is about playing stuff online and in your house, whatever, it shows that they still care about bringing people together in that way. I mean, Nintendo's great for it. They're always got such a big presence at conventions and such. And it was really, that event was particularly really, really cool.
Yeah. We kind of spoke about certain things that have expanded you massively. I think I actually checked the Facebook group today is almost on 5,000. It's literally 50 away. So maybe by the time this comes out, you'll actually be at 5,000. Do you have any advice for anyone who would want to build a community in real life, kind of similar to yours, whether it's, in the same vein of being for the queer community or something similar? What advice would you give to someone who wanted to start that journey?
So if I could go first on this.
Go for it.
Go.
So I think actually it's starting small, just focusing on a tight-knit group of people who share the same passion and can sort of bounce off each other a bit, and then just gradually let more people in. The people that you let in will start inviting other people, and it'll just sort of snowball into something much, much bigger very quickly.
For me, it's a case of like, if you think that if it's a community that you're looking for, someone else is also looking for it.
Yeah.
Right. Like you might sit there and be like, oh, I'm so like, this is so niche. I don't think, why would anyone be into that? You're not going to be the only person into that. Like that's just the rule of thumb. There's so many people out there, especially if you live in especially because we live in a world where you've got a connection to the entire globe, like whether your community's in real life or digitally. But it's going to exist. And I think going into it being like, oh, I think we said it before about growing. We never were about growing or being a product. I think it's about, if your focus is, I just want to get people together with a similar interest, whether it's 5 people, whether it's 5,000 people, like it's not about that. It's about, if you're making any connection, you're doing a good job. Like don't value the size of your community on how big it's got.
Absolutely.
Value your community on the size of it. Yeah. It's about, if you can make a community that just makes a few connections, you've succeeded, in my opinion. And I think there's nothing too niche. Someone out there will also agree with you and will also be obsessed with that thing that you think no one else is.
Just don't rush, and that is the main thing as well. Like don't rush these things. These things take time. I mean, it took a while. It took a while for us to get to where we are. Like until Gaymers found its first venue, it took over a year until we were able to get into an actual venue. So it does take a while for communities. And like Adam and Will are saying, it's make those connections first with your friends. That's the main important thing. On another note, try to make it niche. If you are very, very serious about creating a gaming community or type of community, make it different. Don't do the same thing, everyone else is doing, because a lot of people are trying to do those same things, but try to make it a little bit different, but also reach out to other community groups, reach out to other people who are doing gaming, who are in the LGBTQ community, reach out to charities, reach out to people around you. These types of things where if you have something very dear to you, focus on that, keep pushing on it. Don't feel that like Adam was saying, is like, yes, other people are going to be thinking of it, but if you are the person that is going to start it, then start it. Don't feel it's ever too late. Don't feel you're ever too old or too young to start something. This is always something that has stopped people in the past. But I started Gamers when I was in my mid-20s, and sometimes I have meetings with corporate people to discuss trying to set up events and stuff, and they think I'm too young to be doing this. So it's like it's one of those things. You have to be confident what you do, and have that goal in your mind. Set your mind to it. If you can do it, you can do this. Like, don't give up. So yeah, that's my piece of advice, I'd say.
Nice.
What's next for Gamers Inc? Where do you want to go from here?
The world.
World domination.
I feel like at the moment it's very much we are focusing on the quality rather than the quantity. That's always been our main thing with Gamers. My main focus has never been is about numbers. I've never looked at numbers and been like, oh, we're almost here, let's do more. Like it's always about making those connections with people. It's been interesting to see how many different groups of people, and this was sort of raised when we had a board games night actually last week, is when we were sort of discussing about some of our close friends who weren't going to Tozy anymore because they felt that they didn't really know anyone. But if you look at it in a different light, it's you were the class of you were the class of like 2019 or 2020. You found your group of friends. And you finished, you graduated, you've kind of gone and you've moved on with your group of friends, but you still have that connection with loads of people that still come. And then those new people still keep coming to Tozy, and they make those connections, and then they graduate and then they go off. But it's something that I've been slowly trying to build up. And with COVID, that sort of came in, that kind of disrupted a lot of the plans that I wanted to originally have, was opening up a gaming bar or a community space that we could host all our events. But with COVID and everything that's happening with cost of living at the moment, it's been very, very sort of disheartening to sort of have the realization that a lot of the stuff that we'd like to do can't be done. However, I feel very, very happy, blessed, and privileged to have such a wonderful team and community, because we felt that, especially after COVID, that people would stop coming. That was always a big worry for us, is that people would stop coming to the events, people would stop coming to a lot of our meetups. But it was so heartwarming to see so many people come back.
It was the exact opposite. Like for our first Tozy back, we had to separate the event into 2 separate days so we could get everyone in.
Well, I think a lot of people found gaming as well during lockdown, didn't they? I know that the industry definitely felt it, and I'm sure there were a lot of new people who had really wanted to go, and as soon as that opened, it was it just switched back on, and like you said, then some.
I think like we've said below, it's not a case of growing, but I think there is going to be I think we're going to start bringing in some sort of different types of events. Like we experimented with a board game event, and although it was a lot of work from, I'm sure, useful.
D&D event.
We did a D&D event in collaboration with the new film, and it was a super success. Like every single person that went, whether they were brand new to it or had been doing it for ages, were like, that was so much fun.
Big shout out to Alex and Tommy for organizing, and Andy and John for doing the quiz as well. It was huge props to them for helping us, because yes, D&D is a huge undertaking, and it's not an easy thing.
But stuff like that, I think just trying out different events, it's not a case of growing. And I think really the point of what Yusuf said was exactly what I was going to say, is that like it's a sort of rolling thing. Like, we're here if you want to be coming here all the time for as long as you want, absolutely. But realistically, it's about like, if you come, you spend your few years coming and you find your group, and now you've got that community outside of Gamers, we've done our job. Like you've gone and found your tribe, and it's through us. Absolutely. We're not gonna be anyway like feel bad that you're not coming anymore because you've got your group to go and spend it with now. That's a success story in, I think, all of our opinions. So yeah, it may be a case of someone be like, oh, I don't come anymore because I don't know absolutely every single person there. I was like, well, but
look at your friendship group.
Yeah,
look at your friendship group. Yeah. All these people that you're friends with, you made through Gamers.
Because it's like it's their turn now. It's their turn to meet their friendship group and come in and get their friends and a sort of thing, and maybe they'll do the same thing, and maybe some people will stick around. There's definitely some people who've been coming since I've joined in 2017. So it's different roles, different people, but yeah, I don't think not growing, but just more things for different people, I think would be nice. I think it'd be really good to bring back Gamers Active, like we mentioned, for people who want to sort of do, like, that's the kind of area where it's so more to the side, right? It's like, rather than like, hey, you're gamers who want to meet in real life to do gaming stuff. This is like, you're gamers who want to meet in real life to do something else. It's like that kind of thing, which is definitely a group of people that will join. So yeah, maybe other stuff in the future, who knows?
Yeah, and of course there's we always try to think about how we can shake things up a bit with our regular events, how we can do things a bit differently to sort of put a new twist on things, bringing back older events that we might not have done in a while, like Active is a very good example. Yeah, so I guess I could just echo what Adam and Yusuf said about growing isn't necessarily the focus at the moment. It's to ensure that we're maintaining a consistent level of quality in what we're doing, and that the community that we do have at the moment is happy. And yeah,
as for any collaborations, anyone listening, call us.
Yeah,
Newbie Nights also it's a big
hey Marvel.
But our Newbie Nights as
Davis
well
on the phone.
Yeah. We do try to focus a lot on our newbies. I know that we mentioned that, you know, our OGs and our members who have been coming for a long time, but we do try to provide a space, a separate event for our newbies as well. So they can come and meet up and just, you know, find connections. That we had a recent event at Platform at Old Street. I sadly wasn't there, but we tried something new. Like we were saying, we tried bringing in a traitors themed newbie night where people were playing werewolf, and we had Chris, one of the admins, dress up as Claudia
Winkleman.
And he was the host for it, which was a big success for what I heard. So we do try to find more venues as well to be able to host different things. Like nowadays, so many different companies and corporations are trying to find different ways with gaming now. So it's sort of been my job, as well as everyone else's job, to sort of scour these places to see what we can do differently. Because yeah, like Adam said, that it's nice that we can do stuff which caters to different to our different members. So yeah, we are hopefully going to be doing some more stuff soon. So.
Yay!
Exciting. Well, I'm super thankful for Gamers. I definitely met one of my best friends through Gamers Inc., Leonie, who doesn't play games like we were talking about earlier,
but does voiceover for them.
She is in the industry now. Yeah, so she wasn't when she first kind of joined, which is like we were saying earlier, it's where your people are is kind of where you should be, and whether you have all of the same interests or not, you can kind of facilitate just that coming together. I think it's just such an important thing. And I'm very thankful for it as well. So thank you.
And we're so happy that you're still here.
I'm an OG. Do I count as an OG?
You are an OG.
I mean, you're pre-me. Jesus.
Part of the furniture. Well, with that, I think we'll conclude this episode of the Game Dev London podcast. I got so far through without messing up. I've been your host, Roxanne. You can find me on socials at Xai Gaming. That's XAI Gaming. We've been chatting to Gamers Inc. today. Thank you so much for joining me. Where can we find more about Gamers Inc., what you're up to, and what's coming up?
So you can find more info at gamersinc.com, spelled GAYMERSINC. That is the same on all our social channels. We are on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, Discord. You can find us on there. We do have some more events coming up. So we just had our big monthly meetup, which is always on the third Wednesday of every month. But the first Sunday is our board games. Second Thursday is always our Ultimate Geek quiz, and our Wednesdays is always our big monthly meetup. So put those in the calendar because they are always the same date, as well as many other events that we do throughout the month as well.
Thank you so much. Be sure to check out gamedev.london for the latest updates from us. and we'll see you again same time next week. Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.